What keeps every day from being a perfect day?
Our thoughts about it.
I do.
Do we want every day to be a perfect day?
No. The reason we don't have perfect days is because we don't want them.
And that's the bottom line.
Perfect is a matter of perception anyway. What's perfect for you wouldn't be perfect for me, probably.
Yeah, probably not. Why would that be?
It's all in your perception. Everything's perfect.
The belief in separation, that would have something to do with it.
Well, our perception of everything arises from our perception of ourselves. Therefore, if my perception of me is different from your perception of me, then that's going to change, alter everything. What would allow us, or what would encourage us to look for or to change, to give over our idea of a perfect day to the God self? In other words, if I could just say, show me how the day I want, the day I need to be perfect for me would occur. What would encourage us to do that?
Absolute trust.
That's right.
A greater trust at least than the trust we had in ourselves.
Right.
Giving up judgments? Giving up judgments?
Giving up judgment. Boy. It's an interesting comment for me today, because in my meditation this morning, in response to today's lesson, I was asking, what would help me to see the perfect day, so to speak? And Brother said, how many things do you try to hide behind judgment?
Wow. Behind the what?
Judgment.
How many things do you try to hide behind judgment?
I would think that trying to have a perfect day would involve some amount of dissatisfaction with today. Why isn't today perfect?
Yes.
It is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But maybe I don't see it that way all the time.
When he said that, I became aware of how many supposedly innocuous judgments I make every hour. Something that I don't even recognize as being a judgment, and yet it's there. And it reflects in the world, or the world is reflected in it. That's what makes the world. Those little judgments.
I really got the difference. I mean, it's not like I had never felt it before, but it just really was so obvious. Brian brought the Ken Wapnick book, the Jesus and Forgiveness in Jesus. And I think years ago, I think I had it, at least I recognized, but anyway, it was so good, and it was so good. And I was getting into meditation, and something that I have been struggling with around forgiveness and whatever, but at a point I read something else that I just gave him, and then I turned around and I opened the book, and it just opened to exactly the same thing I had just read about on this other agape manifestation thing, and it was to abundance. And as I'm reading through that around forgiveness, and when I went into just meditation without even thinking about it, spontaneously, some things that I have been really up against and struggling with around forgiveness is like, yeah, all right, you know. But it comes from such a different place when you're really aligned with spirit, with divine nature, that when aligned with that, the forgiveness is not about trying to forgive somebody or even knowing you ever have to. It just comes, it's just there, and from such a different energy. It
Can
was
you give us a
just
specific
perfect.
example?
It just kept rolling out, and it was just like, oh, this is cool.
Give us a specific example if you can.
Well, I mean, it's just of myself, of some things in family and stuff that it's been, you know, some ongoing things that have just been hard to you know, in consciousness has been trying to get me to do some things, and I have been in resistance. But with this, it just spontaneously went into it. And when it really comes from that, I guess the desire that is, they've been there, and then the trying, it's just so different than when there's no effort. I mean, there's no trying. It just is.
When you're in a place that you are not resisting something, anything.
Huh?
When you are in a place where you are not resisting, and you are allowing the mind, literally, to be in the presence of loving.
Yeah, there's no judgment. I mean, there's no judgment, no nothing. It's almost like there's nothing to forgive, but forgiveness is just in the energy.
Maybe we should ask ourselves, is it possible to be in a loving state of mind if you are judging?
No,
No, I don't think so.
no.
You seem to equivocate on that question.
Absolutely no. How's that?
And why?
Judging is separating. And if we're all one, what you're saying is, you're not really part of me. You're the others. And the others are not necessarily good guys. And it's all in that one idea of just saying, you know, any kind of a judgment that is anything other than embracing is an attack.
But even when we have those embracing moments, they are not moments that we recognize we are making a judgment or arriving at a conclusion. It's just there. It's just that is. That is what is.
Yeah, to me, it's like, from the ego state, it's like, you know, if they were just different, I'd be okay. But the truth is, when I'm okay, they're just fine.
And they're different.
They're just fine.
Have you ever wondered that when you make a judgment, any kind of a judgment, even one that appears to be fairly innocuous, when you make it, are you aware that you are withholding love from the world? Might you not make it if you taught yourself that you were withholding love from the world? Would that be helpful?
Yes. Sometimes it feels like I am aware of that. Or immediately after. Like feeling the sense, it's getting really familiar with what judgment feels like. For me, it even has sensation in the body, everything is tight.
Is it about you though, honey, or is it about consciousness in general?
How do you mean, what do you mean when you say that?
Are you aware that you have withheld love from yourself? Or are you aware that you have withheld
I'd
love
say either way.
from the world?
Either way, it's both. It seems like both at the same time. And then and in recognizing it, then of course is the opportunity to relax. To just relax and reopen.
So the next place that we would have to move to then would be the recognition that if I had withheld love from the world, what's the first thing that I should do? The very first thing.
Forgive
Forgive
myself.
myself, yeah.
Yes.
When you say withhold love from the world, I'm not too fond of our president. So would that be in that category?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything that's not in that category.
Not in that
The world is all of it, the whole appearance.
No exceptions.
Yeah.
Well, you know, when we're doing that, when we're judging the president or somebody like that, we want the green to be different. If it's a green, why does it matter? It doesn't matter. Reminds me of my
That's a
vote.
good question, Brian.
Pardon me?
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
What differentiates between the judgments that we make? Is there anything?
No,
No.
it's always an attempt to make the green better.
If it isn't an intent to separate yourself from what you're judging,
Yeah,
then it's irrelevant.
yeah. One of the members of our Wednesday group that Nicole is leading sent out an interesting email last week. Maybe I talked about it here, I don't remember. But there was two members of the Course in Miracles group who were arguing over an interpretation of something on one of the pages. And so the fellow who was leading the group got a hold of Bill Thetford and said, "What should I do about this?" And he said, "Tear that page out of the book because it isn't worth separation of these two brothers."
That was actually the first time I heard that
That's an
story.
old one, yeah.
Yeah.
Was Bill had been present, and he literally did tear the page out.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
But what a great way to look at it. You know, to pass that on to this person.
Nothing.
This is, don't let anything separate one brother from another.
Right.
You know what reminded me of that? I was just reading something. I don't know where it was. I had opened this and I was starting reading and said something about like, forget me, forget this course, just
Oh, yeah.
forget. It was all like, just be. And that's what that reminds me. It's like the course is, it's a device. It's like an arrow pointing us to the right direction, but it's not the truth. So if it's a matter of oneness or separation, get rid of it.
That's kind of like the book, what do you do after enlightenment? Chop wood, carry water. What you do before? Chop wood, carry water.
But you liked it later.
Huh?
But you liked it later.
Yeah, like, yes.
You did.
Right.
Bob said that's
That was actually the name of the book.
Any other comments? Then let's do the lesson.
I have one comment or one little motive that I remember in my mind a lot. And it's so simple. It's, love is the answer regardless of the question. It just covers everything.
Yeah.
That's a handy one.
Okay. What was that, 190?
190.
Page 361.
That paragraph you were talking about, Nicole, is right across from this paragraph 7 of lesson 189, I think.
Oh, yeah, see, I've marked it. Thank you so much. You really help me sometimes, Tom.
I cut it marked 3 different ways.
I don't have one of those lines that go like that. I count things, you know?
Yeah, I look like that. So in
There
pieces.
you go, man.
Put it up right.
Wow.
Oh, you got 2 of them.
Thank you.
Patty, would you like to start us off?
Okay. Lesson 190, I choose the joy of God instead of pain. Pain is a wrong perspective. When it is experienced in any form, it is proof of self-deception. It is not a fact at all. There is no form it takes that will not disappear if seen aright. Where pain proclaims God cruel, how could it be real in any form? If witnesses to God the Father's hatred, it witnesses to God the Father's hatred of his Son, the sinfulness he sees in him, and his insane desire for revenge and death.
How many of us would ever equate our lack of joy at whatever was happening in our experience to that kind of an experience of our belief in God?
Me.
Me too.
Can such projections be attested to? Can they be anything but wholly false? Pain is but witness to the Son's mistakes in what he thinks he is. It is a dream of fierce retaliation for a crime that could not be committed, for attack on what is wholly unassailable. It is a nightmare of abandonment by an eternal love, which could not leave the Son whom it created out of love.
A nightmare of abandonment.
Yeah.
Wow. Is it that simple? Really? Is it that simple? That the world could change to being 100% an expression of loving if we just gave up our judgments? Goodness sakes, come on. If it could be that simple, what's holding us back?
There'd be no
Our
shortage of
judgments.
money or food or anything else, because we wouldn't be building all these war toys.
Yeah, it's them.
We're
It's
just
them that's
too,
holding it back.
we're just too entranced. We're just so entranced.
So conditioned.
So entranced.
What about friends? I couldn't hear all that.
We're so entranced.
Oh, entranced. I said
We're
friends.
just so entranced.
Yeah,
That would be
entranced.
nice.
What is
I would
it?
like to go to France.
It's lovely.
You'd be impressed.
It's, yeah.
It's them that's holding us back. It's not me.
It's always them.
Yeah.
Let's try to make a promise to ourselves. Let's try to promise ourselves that the next time we make a judgment, we will at least recognize, whether we do anything about it or not is irrelevant really, but that we will at least recognize that we are withholding love from the entire world.
That would be huge.
That
If we
would
could
be
do
huge.
that.
I wonder how many times we'd have to do that before it finally dawned on us that it was withholding love from ourselves as well.
It seems like a conundrum, though, that you have to have love to withhold love.
But isn't that what we're taught, Raj?
We already have
That
it.
we are a part of the very essence of love.
We are love.
We are
Yeah.
created from love, and therefore that's what we are.
But I spent most of my life, I would have to say, not only believing I was not loved, but also having no feeling that it was my job to express love in the world, and that was my function. I spent most of my life not believing that is my function in the world, to express love, much less the fact that that is my nature and what I would just be is expressing myself. And I'm still not there.
So what it really means is that until we forgive ourselves, we're not going to really forgive anyone or anything.
It's going to be very difficult, but that's, I think, why the Course tells us if you can't see it in yourself, at least try to find one person that you think is innocent. It says, you don't have to try to see your brother without their body, but rather desire to see one brother totally innocent.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
That happened just simultaneously in that space of forgiving myself for everything as I was forgiving them, and it was really like there wasn't anything to forgive even in that space. That forgiveness was what was going on, but it was simultaneous almost between seeing myself and them, and it was almost like chicken or egg, which came first.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Because they are you, they are me, whoever I'm forgiving. And that's what the sense that I felt when that was
Right,
going.
and there's just such a
There
difference.
was no separation.
Right, but there's such a difference between being in that, and knowing that intellectually and actually
Experiencing it directly.
experiencing that, and then being out of it and just watching that old ego kick in. Yeah, but.
What did you say?
I said, and then to be in that space, and then to watching that ego as you get back starts coming in of the, I don't know, just as the energy shifts. It's like I want to stay in this energy forever, but then I can feel, life happens and pulls in another direction. It's just like the difference of day and night, of the darkness of the light.
That happened to me yesterday. I wasn't proud of myself. I was trying to get a liveaboard boat slip, and anyway, I went to the marina. This is the second time this lady that works there, she just got something nasty. I don't know what she doesn't like me. I've always been nice to her. And the first time I went in there and asked her, do you guys have any liveaboard? We don't do that here. And she's supposed to cut me off. And I was like, okay. And I told my dad, and he has a boat there, and he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure they do. They have them. So I went back down. I was like, I'm going to ask again. This is like a year and a half later, right? So I go there, and I see her coming out of the bathrooms and how to set up. I was like, oh, I think you're the person I need to talk to. I said, I had a question about, a liveaboard slip and, how you get on the list and stuff, because my dad had already talked to someone in the boat thing. And so anyway, it's this real simple boathouse, and I thought I needed to go up to the window. She goes, actually, the person you need to see is it's in the second door, it's her office. And I said, okay. So I go around, and the office door is clear glass on the top, but it's got like the sunscreen, so I can't see, but I see a man sitting at a desk, and I didn't want to just come right in, So I knocked, and I see him like looking, go like that, and so I went to open the door. Well, as I'm opening it, she had gone in the other door. It's the same office. Like, she could have let me in, and she comes walking through and she looks at me and goes, it's not that complicated. I was just like, I got myself. I was like, okay, just stay calm like this lady. And so, it was really hard. And then I talked to the other lady, and she was very helpful. And I said, I think my dad got the information wrong. Yes, and all this stuff. So anyway, we were talking, and I said, well, thank you very much for your help. And I left, and I went home. Well, I went to the car and called my friend. I'm like, unleashing about this lady. And then I was at the table. I said, you know what? Who's the boss there? I'm going to get her fired. I was like, she's just got it out for me. And I could feel it build and build and build. And it was so ugly. And it was really more attacking me, because she's probably just going about her day like, I don't care. I'm going to be nasty to everybody. So I really had to stop, and I had to think. And I was like, could I forgive her? And I really couldn't at that time. It took a little bit of time to think, because I thought, she is so personal to me when I'm there, and it's for no other reason than she just is nasty. And I'm just like, I can't figure it out. So I thought, could I just relax and forgive her? And then today I'm in a better place, I should say, than I was yesterday, because I was also frustrated by the situation. I was calling insurance companies, and like, we don't do that, and it was just dead end, and she was just the cherry on the top. But it is very hard when you can feel yourself work up that steam, and you haven't done anything to is personally attacking you like that. But then, was I personally attacking her? I don't know. It's hard to find that in yourself when I hadn't ever done anything to her, and she is just short with me, and I just thought, I don't know what your problem is. I'm glad I'm not you, because you're so nasty. I guess I should be thankful, because you're just in a bad mood all the time. So
Why don't you ask her, She probably doesn't realize what she's doing. She does
You know,
it all
it's-
the time, you know?
And it's just me by myself. She's nasty. Like, I had been there with my ex at the time, and he used to live there one time, and she was real nice and talking to him and everything. I thought, this is not the same lady I've dealt with by myself. So it's just kind of one of those situations where
Do you have any idea what was really upsetting you?
Well, yeah, because then this always gets me. I don't really speak my mind, and I have a problem with boundaries. So I let people tend to walk over me because it sounds so good in theory, but the minute I stick up for myself and I tell them off or I am assertive with them, then I'm like, boy, I was a real ass. I didn't really need to go there. I should have been kind and loving. But I get that state where I'm so kind and loving all the time, then I'm like a doormat. And I'm like, but that's not benefiting them either because...
Yes, it is.
Is it? I don't
Yeah.
know, because it's tearing me apart. Because I'm thinking I'm worth the respect too that I
that's
give
the
them.
problem.
Okay.
Somehow, it seems to you that being nice
Uh-huh.
makes you a doormat.
Okay. And it's, well, maybe because the world tells us you better be a dragon and handle your
What's the
stuff.
answer to that?
I tell you, it's exactly what Ken Wapnick was talking about in what I was reading today that was so profound. In fact, I was sharing it with my friend in Alaska this morning. And it was, and I was given some other analogies, just like where we don't solve a problem on the level of the problem.
Yeah.
And it's like on the problem, on the level of the ego, we can't understand it because we're working on effects and God only works not on effects,
Right.
but only on cause. And so he used the example like you're late and you're stuck in traffic and you're just wanting to pray to clear out all of the cars, you know, and so I can get there. I'm late. I got to be at this meeting. And he said instead, go to cause and say, turn it over to God and say, okay, God, there must be that whole this or something better. There's got to be some reason that perhaps it's better that I'm not there on time, that there's something else, a reason why, because God's in charge, you know, it's like, so I can find peace in that moment because I'm going to cause, turning it over to cause versus the effects
Right.
of what are going on. And he just described that so perfectly. It was really good.
I just think I just get frustrated because it's like I want to be a nice person. I don't like people coming at me like that. And it always seems like when you're prepared, you know, you're ready to like get someone, and that's when they don't do it. They do it when you're not ready and you're thinking, and I had a lot of stuff on my mind. I thought, I should have said something to her. Like, I don't appreciate that, you know? Like, I did say...
Listen, before you begin to go there,
Okay.
let's try to see if there's a road or a path.
Please.
It doesn't lead us. It doesn't lead us to the recognition
Okay.
of what's really happening.
Okay.
Okay, begin the process by the recognition that there's the thing itself is irrelevant.
Okay.
Her attitude,
Right.
whether she's in a bad mood or a good mood, that's all irrelevant.
Okay.
The only thing you're concerned with is your response.
Okay.
You see how I'm putting you back in control?
Right.
Your response. That's all that you are concerned with.
Okay.
Because that's the only thing that you respond to. That's the only thing that makes you feel good or makes you feel bad.
Right.
Your response. So why would your response to doing a loving thing make you feel unloved?
And that's what I think I have to figure out, because it really it's like I know I did the right thing by being a kind and loving person, but then I just feel like, but then I have rights not to be talked to like that.
Wait a minute. What do you mean by you have rights?
I have a right as a human being. I don't talk to people like that. Why is she talking to me like that when I haven't come at her wrongly?
But how is she talking to you?
Rudely. Like she was, actually, I was a dummy. Like, it's not that hard to figure out.
See,
that
there
you're
we
the
are.
door.
We're back again
Okay.
to the thing being the cause of how you feel.
Okay.
And the thing is not. The thing, her attitude,
Okay.
is not the cause for how you feel.
Okay.
Your reaction, response to her is the cause
Okay.
for how you feel.
It's a hard concept.
It is, but it's one of the most basic concepts that the Course teaches.
Okay.
It says, see everything as an expression of love or a call for love.
Okay.
Now, what if you, looking at her response to you, what if the first thing that came to your mind was, my goodness, what could I do to help her feel better about herself today? If this is a call for love, what could I do to make her feel more loved? Would that have triggered the response in you?
I had thought about that and usually that's how I am with people, like if they must be having a bad day, maybe there's something I can do to make their day better, right? I'm not gonna take this
Yes.
personal about me, but every time it's like, this is how she is with me and,
Honey, that's only because you haven't answered the question yet.
okay. I
You're
guess
fine,
I'm having,
you're-
I have trouble with
You're
that.
becoming aware of what the real question is,
Okay.
but you still have to answer it.
And
You still have to have that first opportunity.
okay.
When the first thing that comes to your mind is, my goodness, what could I do to help her have a
Okay.
better day?
Okay,
Because she's not reacting to you.
right.
She doesn't know you.
Yeah, right.
She's off in her world, you're in your world, and the two are grinding.
Sure. Yeah.
And nothing loving is happening. But you can change that.
Okay.
You have the power in that moment to change all of that.
Okay. Yeah.
Simply by stopping and saying to the God self, show me. Show me what's really happening
Okay.
here.
All right.
Show me how to bring loving into this situation. And you can do that.
Okay.
And then doing that over and over again is what teaches you to have the first reaction be, how can I bring love to this situation?
Min, can I say that out loud? That might just be quiet. How can I bring love to your life today? You seem like you're having a bad day.
Maybe there are occasions when you say it out loud.
Yeah, I'm thinking with that one might just stop her in her tracks. Like, oh. Okay.
You're not, honey.
I know that's
You're not-
retaliation.
You're not interested in stopping her in her
I
tracks.
know.
You're interested in stopping your ego
Yes.
in its tracks.
Yeah. Because it was really bruised and it was just in front of everybody. It was like I was a ditzy blonde or something. Excuse me if there was blonde here, but it was kind of like, it's not that hard. And I thought, wow, that was so ugly when I was doing the play. I said, well, I'm sorry, there's a sunscreen on the door. I didn't want to be rude. Just walk in.
Darling, forgive me,
Yeah.
but you're still trying to make her responsible.
I know. But it's a hard concept because
That's never
yeah.
going to set you free.
I know. But you know what? Well, this is where I get. So I've been battling something lately where people say, you know, and I try not to remember because it pisses me off to know. And people say, if you tell the universe, I don't want a power book. I don't want a power book. All the universe hears is want. I'm like, does the universe not speak English? Like, it makes me mad because I'm thinking, is the universe dumb and it doesn't know don't and want? Like, it's obviously what you're putting out. And I'm thinking, it makes me mad. Like, it's not an idiot thing, the universe, you know?
Well,
It reinforces that you don't have it.
something that helps me get to where Tom is talking
Yeah.
about, because what he's saying is so crucial.
Right, and I understand.
It's really crucial. It's something that helps me to get to that place.
Right.
Because maybe that feels like a jump.
It
for
feels
you
like a
now.
jump,
So,
but yeah.
is to remember what the Course is always telling us, which is that there really isn't another.
Right,
You're imagining she's not you.
right,
She's a reflection of you in some fashion.
right.
So
Or you think-
where I will go to when there's an upset like that, and I can feel myself having to work with it because I'm reactive,
Right.
right?
Right.
I'm constantly trying to remind myself that I'm somewhere in this other person. There's something.
Honey,
So what's going on here? You know.
Wait, Nicole, wait, before you go too far along that path. All that really means, when you say there's something of her in me, now you're talking about comparing the God self. Don't have
Well-
the misimpression that that's ego
Well,
to ego.
it's the
Because
Course
the
also
egos will
speaks
never be
about
alike.
well, the Course also speaks about projection. So what we're saying other people are, a lot of times what I find it's what I'm feeling in here. And if I can get to that, I stop projecting it onto the other person.
And that's
I
how
can
Ken
find my
wanted it.
love. I can find the love.
Ken Wozniak, the way he puts
And
that
stop
is,
feeling
you pray
separate.
for right-mindedness, which is cause versus effects that you're dealing with if you're looking at the other person or whatever. If you just pray
Yes.
for right-mindedness, which is love, which is that, so it's, you have to feel it in order to be able to see it there, and that's what he said, is to set your mind right.
The
Yes.
ego is always going to say, how can I be more godlike and change this situation to where I like it? And that's never going to happen.
Yeah, or just like here, because we're the cause of our pain.
You've got to be willing.
That's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about, though. I'm not quite understanding how that's.
Well, then let's go back to step one. First thing I recognize is that what I'm dealing with, the thing
Yes.
that I'm dealing with, is not the cause
Right.
of my reaction.
Exactly.
The thing I am dealing with that is the cause is my perception.
Yes.
And if I can choose to be loving, if I can choose to allow the God self to redirect my thinking to a loving place, now I can see things from a loving perspective. And I can change the entire dynamic of what's happening.
It's the exact title of this lesson. Whether you're going to choose cause or effect.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said it's the exact title of this lesson that we're on, whether you're going to choose cause or effect, whether you're going to choose joy or pain.
Yes.
Because we create our own pain, our own turmoil, our own mind garbage.
Yeah, what we're talking about is the subject of this lesson.
Yeah.
No
Huh?
doubt about it.
No doubt.
I like to ask in situations where I'm flustered,
Yeah,
how would God respond?
right.
And the minute I say that, then it's not Jim and it's not
Right.
anything else. What I'm really saying is how would love respond? Because God and love are one thing.
Right.
So, what if I have the audacity to ask that question of myself, I get an answer that is very loving, and it gets me both what I want and what they want. And the main thing is to be aware enough in my mind to ask the question, how would love respond to this? And
I was hoping
it
you'd
works
have
real
something in
well.
there about smiting people.
Yeah.
Well, whatever.
God's not into
Just
smiting.
kidding. I'm kidding with
No.
you. Not smite them. I'm really not like that, but you really, I have been told I'm a meek mouse my whole life, and you need to speak up for yourself. But it's like, I speak up for myself, but it's like at the same time, oh my gosh, then you need to have boundaries with people. You do. I've been in 2 very abusive marriages. You do need to have boundaries because believe me, they will kill you from the inside out. So that's probably me dealing with that, and then having to stick up for myself is very hard. But when I do it, then I'm like, God, I was an asshole. The hell, those people must feel bad. They don't feel bad. They're out shopping and going out to dinner. They don't think a thing about it.
What self do you want to stick up for?
The one
The
that's
ego self or the
loving.
God self?
The one that's loving. Yeah. I mean, so it's a hard concept for me because I'm coming out of defense. I know I am because it's raw. You know what I mean?
It's very hard.
Yeah.
It's what we all deal with. It's the hardest thing that we all deal with
Right.
every day.
Yeah.
So Tom, do you think we attract these people into our lives to give us this to work on?
I think that you could find any of these situations in anybody that lives.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's always going to be just a matter of what you're looking for and the purpose that you use it for. So
That's
you go
more-
through all
yeah.
of this stuff. As long as you first have taught yourself to go to the God self and say, show me where I'm going here. Lead me. In other words, don't immediately abandon yourself to the ego's perception. Go to the God self.
Right.
Train yourself, teach yourself. That's the only thing to do.
Right.
Go to the God self
I can
and say,
only
show me, help me.
Because do you think when people say, well, I just kill them with kindness, to me that's almost passive aggressiveness, because then you're manipulating someone by, I'm going to be sugary sweet, because then you're trying to get them
That's,
to
you
like
see,
you.
but that's always saying it's still about them.
Right.
And the God self is never going to teach you that.
Okay.
No,
The God self is never going to say, let me show you how to change their attitude.
no.
Right, yeah.
That's
yeah.
exactly it.
Okay.
This kind of reminds me, a situation that I had the last time we were in Carmel. I brought it up before, but it's kind of the same thing where I was in a bookstore and I had gotten this book that I just totally loved, and it was in this bookstore and a guy was standing right there and I said, oh, you've got to get this book, it is just so good. And he looked at me like I was a bug.
Right.
You know, horrible. But at first, just for a split second, I was taking offense, and then it's like, oh no, I'll just get out of this space and wish him a happy day. You know, I want him to be happy. And at that moment, that is really all I wanted. I didn't go to that dark place. It was just like I was kind of watching what was happening to me. So it was like I wasn't trying to affect what he was thinking or what he was doing in any way, shape, or form. I was just myself wishing him a happy day, and that made me feel good, and I went on my way and gave him his space. So I don't know if that's kind of similar, but it brought up that episode that you don't really have to.
Because he'll take it on, and then I start spinning this whole story, and
Yeah.
then I'm gonna, I sound like a mad one, and then why you better watch it. Who's the name of her boss? Because this time I'm really good. I didn't call, I did not call, but it's just it sounded good at the time,
The first thing, I repeat again and again,
Okay,
first thing to remember, it's not about them.
okay,
That's right.
It's not, and your being happy is not about changing them.
okay,
It's about changing how you see yourself.
okay.
I'm reminded when I'm listening to you talk about the story that you had about the guy from East India that called you on the phone, said he was going to kill you, and then he was going to eat you, and the Holy Spirit turned out to be Linda.
Holy Spirit turned out to be.
It's kind of a loose translation.
When he got the call, he said they were going to come and eat him. Turned out to be his wife.
But I was probably a more apt illustration. I was coming over Teal Lake Road one day, raining and kind of a miserable day, and there were two guys walking down the road, and one of them stuck out his thumb. So I stopped, and they both got in the car. One of them had a blanket over his head and so forth, and he said, turn around and go back up this muddy road. Our car is stuck up there, and maybe you could pull us out. And I said, no, I can't do that. My car is not for towing. And besides, I don't have a tow rope or anything. But I'll be happy to take you over to the village store, and you can call for a tow truck. Well, he said, I have a friend that lives out here. Could you help us by maybe taking us to find his house? I said, sure, I'll be happy to do that. So I drove up and down a bunch of roads, couldn't find his friend's house. And finally I said, well, I can't do any more. And I'm having my wife, we are having dinner guests, so I have to get back to the village store and get back home. So I did. I took him back to the village store. Long story. Later come to find out, two sheriff's deputies show up at my door. And the guy said, are you the one who gave the hitchhiker? I said, yeah. Well, what we suspect was he had just murdered somebody. And the body was in the trunk, and they were trying to find a place to ditch it. So why didn't they kill me and take my car?
Yeah.
Was
I
it your
don't
time?
know. The only thing I can tell you is that it probably wouldn't have served any purpose for me. Not talking about them. Wouldn't have served any purpose for me.
To be killed?
Yeah.
Wasn't in the plan.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about.
Anyway, what are we trying to do? Out of this whole Course in Miracles situation, what are we trying to do? We are trying to learn to see ourselves differently.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the bottom line. Okay? If we could understand, if we could believe that the Holy Spirit is always with us, that the Holy Spirit sees nothing in us except the perfectly holy, Holy, child of God, would we need to be doing any of this? It would all be irrelevant, wouldn't it, Jim? It'd be absolutely irrelevant.
Yep.
So we're trying to learn to see that. And the way we learn to see that is by looking in the mirror of our brother. Seeing in them, seeing the God in them that opens our mind to being able to see the God in us.
It's a real challenge. You know, I've got this person in my life that I ride with him every week down to where Scott lives down in Allen. And this guy is the most negative person I've ever met in my life. And he's very loud, and he hardly ever stops talking. And it's always negative about other people, you know. And he can also be pretty, what do I want to say? I don't know. He cusses a lot, you know, and so on.
Sounds like judgment.
So, yeah, it's my judgment of him, that's for sure. You know, so I've been trying to work on myself to see him as a loving child of God, you know. And I can be that way for a while until I get back in the car with him for 20 minutes, you know. And it's just ongoing, and I think, well, should I just tell this guy to go on his own, you know? But he's also a client of mine, you know. So it's difficult to get out of the situation. And it's difficult when you're exposed to it for like 2 hours out of a day.
Brian, the thing that helps me the most when I find that I just can't quite cope with the situation is just to go inside and say to my God self, can you please handle this for me? I can't cope with it. I literally cannot cope with what's going on. My feelings are terrible. And I have had brother on numerous occasions say to me, well then go ahead and feel any way you want to, I'll handle it.
I'm glad you said that because I didn't realize how much of a controller I was until I started working with this. I told you, I read that one in the Rumi Rules of Love for and I realized that I have a hard time handling it over.
Oh yeah.
I did, I would. So when I started saying I don't need to know the answer here, I just need to listen, and the answer will show up.
The God self
That was not easy for me at first. I wanted to, but if I do this, or I didn't realize how much I was wrapped up in that.
We want
And
to be
it's
right.
because,
Yeah, I wanted to run it.
and it's because we're
wanting to
always
understand.
judging ourselves for not doing it right.
Is it that I wanted to take credit for? Do you think? I mean, was it
We want to believe
ego
that we can
building?
we want to believe in the holy ego.
Yeah,
The holy ego.
That's true.
that's a good thought. That's a good put.
Yeah.
If that isn't a dichotomy, I don't
But I have
know.
really been listening more, and life does go smooth.
Well, when I had, really such an enormous forgiveness with my ex-husband, and this is what I was trying to say earlier, it's not about a holy ego, but I could see, because I saw him as so full of pain and doing all these rotten things out of his pain. And what occurred was the realization that the way I was seeing him was my own pain projected outward. There wasn't really a separation. And I could feel us as a oneness. And through that recognition, and that's what I was saying is sometimes a practice for me, is to realize there's not, and I can usually find it, the state of mind that's here that is seeing and wants to put it on the other person.
Yeah.
But when I feel that connectedness, because the ego's one too, you know, it's like when I feel that, then it's suddenly, there's, I don't know, it's like everything just relaxes and just, then I just loved him. I
understand, honey.
You know?
What I was trying to say to you, our natural inclination is to always try to make our ego join. We look for ways that we can make the ego, the holy ego, we can substitute. And that's just never going to work. It's never going to happen. Our ego can't join. We can end up feeling very good about seeing common traits or a million different ways that we can describe it. But the fact of the matter is, you first must transition to the presence of your God self before any kind of meaningful joining can occur.
I realized in listening to Sally there, I'm sorry.
Well, but the joining I felt wasn't ego. The recognition of my own ego, yes, but the oneness was loving, extremely loving. And that was really when I was feeling forgiveness.
Would that be empathy though? Empathy? Huh? You seem like a very empathetic person. Was it empathy?
Really empathy, but more than that. I mean, really feeling that there was no separation, and my whole sense of reality shifted to almost like a liquidness, just a total liquidness, and I couldn't separate me from him anymore and blame him or anything. I couldn't even blame me. There was just love and acceptance for that everything we had done out of reactivity was from that place that didn't know love. So seeing it, so I couldn't just say, oh, pain and unconsciousness and all those things are out there in James. No, they were here too. And so it was, you know, and the Course talks to us about that, about how there's projection, you know, which would be perception, or there's vision. And so it was like feeling that projection, and many times I could feel it. If I start to feel a reactivity, it's like, wait a minute. They can't be the way I'm seeing them, you know, and then start to feel, it's almost like a clue, you know, it's like a clue. It makes me stop so that I can turn to the divine, so I can stop and ask for help or ask for what's really going on here.
Yeah, Brother is just reminding me that sometimes to make that transition to the God self, that we can do that most easily by reminding ourselves what we want out of the circumstance.
Yeah.
Just that,
Yeah, that's true. So what I wanted there was a forgiveness process when that happened with my ex-husband and I. That's very strong desire.
Yeah.
So that's true. Yeah.
I'm gonna try. It's hard. It's a hard concept. So
the next time you're trying really hard,
Uh-huh.
recognize that you're doing it for all of us,
Okay.
and we can help you.
Okay.
It's not only that we can help being a beneficent thing to do, we're doing it for our own benefit.
Right. And I think not to take it, I don't like it when I allow someone to make it seem personal to me, you know. I mean, whether it was or not, if she's that way with certain people, not others, it was just that feeling of being, I felt attacked by her, a personal attack. And I knew I should be like, let it roll off the, like, you know, water off a duck's back. But at the same time, it was, maybe what really bothers me is that she's thinking I've done something to her and I haven't. And I don't like to see people when they're angry or they're hurt. That is a real problem for me. But that also gets me in a lot of trouble because they're not asked, I mean, what they say you can't fix, I don't know. There's different classes I go to, you know, like if someone's not asking you to fix them, don't fix them. You know, that's not your responsibility. But it's hard because the Course kind of teaches different, doesn't it? The Course teaches us
No,
that.
not really.
Mhm.
You're,
No?
you're pretty much on top of it.
Okay. So just be loving to people? I mean, just give them the love? I don't want to hold up the whole class. It's just such a profound thing for me because it's a hard concept for me to do.
I
You
think
don't
it's
want to be a
profound thing
doormat.
for all of us.
Yeah, it's really hard.
This is a really core issue for everyone.
Okay. So in a
It is the reason, in fact, that God created the Holy Spirit to begin with. Because it's the one vehicle we have to automatically transcend from the ego to the perfection of the God self.
Okay. So in the situation that happened like that, instead where I could feel my blood well, just ask the Holy Spirit for guidance. Would that have been the better thing to do? Do that from now on, just keep practicing that?
Yes.
Okay.
Also, it probably would be good to go cancel, and quit affirming that it's hard, because then you're programming that it's going to be hard to change. So if you want that to not be hard, and
What I did is just-
you want to change that programming.
I was proud of the fact that I calmed down a little bit. I talked to the other lady, and the help that she gave me, I really stopped and I said, thank you so much. You've been so very helpful. Have a great day. She goes, oh, you're welcome. It changed at least a little bit of the energy that was there. And I thought, I can't reach this other lady. She's whatever. She's so closed off that maybe through this lady, I don't know. That's where I gave my gratitude for that one, and was just like thank you so much. You've been very helpful. I appreciate it, So I don't know. I don't know if I handled it right. I did not like the way it made me feel when I got home and I let it unloose. And I should do better, so I'll try better.
A book I enjoyed reading was When Fear Falls Away, about a woman who had a spontaneous enlightenment, if you will. And she talks about after that event, she came out of a gas station once and she left her car at the gas pump. And there was a person waiting to pull into the pump. And that person just jumped all over her. And so she got in her car and she drove away, and she was at such a place where she took her a while to figure out what the issue was. And she had no reaction to it at all. And she said in the book, if that had happened before, I would have given it to her right between the eyes. It would have been really vicious and hard. And so I think what you said about, Tom, suppressing the ego, if you can, stopping the ego, if you continue to do it, you can get to that place eventually.
Yeah, you will.
That's amazing what we
You
do
will.
to ourselves.
Mac, it's all a function of what you really want. So what we're really doing is changing the way we feel from this response to this response. And when we see that this response makes us feel so much better, that's what we want.
Okay.
And so that will begin to become more normal then.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for explaining it over and over because I asked a bunch of times. It's just a different way of looking at it.
It is hard.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
A big part of it, I think, for me anyway, is a sense of justice and injustice.
Yeah.
And that is the place a situation goes to first, I think. Should this be happening? Is this justice or injustice?
Right.
And that's a difficult one because that's what the Course tells us about. That's a matter of judgment. That's a matter of our concepts of what justice is and injustice is. But sometimes when we see things that seem so blatantly unjust, it just feels good when they get their comeuppance.
Shame fraud. I'm waiting for some shame fraud on the people.
It's hard to deny and say, oh, I shouldn't feel like that, but I do, and it feels good. It's an idea of having an idea of what's really going on. And it all boils down, I think, exactly to what Tom has said a number of times today, is what do we want? But the other thing is, what do we think this world is?
Just us.
Yeah.
I always say that, just us.
Just
Just us. Just
Well,
us.
there's another way of
It's
saying
just
it,
us.
and that is edging God out.
Is what?
Ego is edging God out.
Right.
And so a lot of us tend to think that's the purpose. And,
That's another
sometimes it
verse.
works and sometimes it doesn't.
It's also really tricky because the ego's just so tricky, you know,
GMOs,
so
God
it all
involved.
has these little back doors that prayers come.
What
so,
Monsanto's
Like I
doing.
keep hearing you say, well, I should just let it roll off my back, I should this, I shouldn't have that. But maybe it starts with, like the relaxing around it for you in a situation. Maybe it starts with just forgiving yourself for the, who says you should have, whatever.
Right.
You did so maybe so you can see this a bigger way and bring it here and talk.
Because
to
I'm
God
already
and talk
faulting
to the group.
myself right out the gate.
So maybe it
Yeah.
starts there.
So the attack was really on myself, right? I mean, in a way, it kind of was. It's like I took what she did and then I just tripled it.
Maybe
She's
it's-
like calling out her
maybe
coffee.
it's highlighting how you attack yourself
Yeah.
sometimes or how you are right now.
Right,
There's just right now.
yeah.
So right now, it's, who says you shouldn't be doing that? Are you? You know what I mean?
You know, in this situation, this guy I have, he's not attacking me. He's attacking everyone else. And I'm listening.
Attacking
He's
himself.
attacking himself.
Yeah, he
He's
is
attacking himself.
attacking himself,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, it says always more about the giver than it does about you. But that's what reminded me, you just tied in the should with the, what you just said. And that was, that whole thing of giving it over, and I realized that I grew up from any year I could ever remember back to, I think even coming into the body to begin with. But it was like, if I can do it, I should do it myself and not bother somebody else. And I should know how to do it and not bother somebody else. So all it wants to turn it over to spirit or to something else. I just realized that tie-in is that it was inbred in me from the time I came in, that I should know and not bother somebody else if I can do it myself.
Or not bother the Holy Spirit?
Well, no, and so I was just going, oh, whoa, yes, I should be able to do this. I mean,
And tell myself, stop shitting on yourself.
I know, so I keep telling myself, when I hear somebody else, because that's why I just tied in should, you know, I should be able to do it.
Yeah, so
And it's not.
And that's where, and I keep hearing Tom coming back to, we're forgiving ourselves. Forgiving ourselves and loving ourselves.
Yeah, be gentle.
While loving, and that's, while loving that other person, or if I find myself in a reactivity, if I can have compassion for my own state, if I see where I got reactive or where I'm, oh, I should have just let it, if I can see that and just, sometimes I cry when I see that because I'm just feeling such a softness towards myself. And then letting it go and forget. And then I'm totally clear to be so forgiving with that other person. And it doesn't feel so separate anymore. But sometimes it's hard to get to that if I'm still thinking, because there isn't forgiveness there. If I'm still thinking I need to be different. If I'm condemning myself somehow for my actions.
Yeah, that comes back to,
It's a simple
years
little thing,
ago,
but it's
I knew something had happened when I was about
Another
2.5 or
important
3, and I knew something had happened. And then at one time, doing, I'm an educational kinesiologist, brain gym and all that, well, we were doing some advanced training, doing a T and J balance. And instantly, I could feel the correlation between here and hips. I just instantly, when I laid down, and I went, this is gonna do it. And I went for almost an hour going, with just movement. And what it was, I was like this horse being reined in by the mouth. This was who I was. This was how I should be. And I realized that I play that all the time, how I should be, how I should do. And then you wonder, how do you know what you want? Because I remember at one time trying to figure, why does it have so much trouble coming up with what I want when that was classes that I was teaching for so many years? And I'm just tying that together now. It's just realizing how that whole thing of how I should be, that whole ego versus how I was.
That brings up another important point. Remember, you can't do it wrong.
Remember what?
You can't do it wrong.
Yeah.
even doing it
Oh.
wrong by your standards now was the perfect thing to do accomplish something else. So whatever it is, you can't do it wrong.
Oh my God, and I always had a mantra, it could always be better. Because I always waited until the last minute, but no matter what I did, no matter how much it was, somebody else would come back and say, oh gosh, how did you ever? Oh, well, you know, I wouldn't even look at it, except that it should have always been better.
Well, don't do that anymore.
No, that was part of a class that I used
I'm
to
sorry, that was a whole other thing. I wasn't really telling you you can't do it wrong.
Huh?
Okay, are we clear with this one?
What's that?
Are we clear?
Yeah, I think I'm getting it. Just we'll ask for help. Ask
Yeah.
for help.
Can I read
That's the most important thing you can remember.
Okay.
And Tom, we can ask for help at every single little turn, right? So that in forgiving myself, I ask for help. If I'm
Yes.
challenged there,
Yeah.
Big
ask for help.
challenge.
So just every turn, just.
Let me just read a quick 2 sentences. The Course in Miracles tells us that the voice of the ego is always the first one we hear. It is always the loudest, it is always wrong, and that it is based in fear. If we refuse to focus on these thoughts, we may still hear this still small voice for God, the Holy Spirit, that feeds us loving thoughts.
Okay,
We've never read through the lesson, right?
back to the lesson now.
Yes.
I think we're on paragraph 3, Scott.
God or evil, pain or suffer. Joy.
Pain is a sign of illusion, brain in place of truth. It demonstrates God is denied, confused with fear, perceived as mad, and seen as traitor to himself. If God is real, there is no pain. If pain is real, there is no God. Vengeance is not part of love. And fear, denying love and using pain to prove that God is dead, has shown that death is victor over life. The body is the Son of God, corruptible in death, as mortal as the Father he has slain.
Just love this lesson.
Ouch.
Ouch, yes.
The very next sentence just fixes it though nicely.
Yeah. It's just
Anyone
such
comment about
foolishness.
what Scott just read?
Yeah, talk about it.
Well, I don't want to step on Jim's comment on the next
Okay.
It's such a great barometer. It's just such a great barometer.
Peace to such foolishness.
I love that.
The time has come to laugh at such insane ideas. There's no need to think of them as savage crimes or secret sins with weighty consequences. Who but a madman could conceive of them as cause of anything? Their witness of pain is mad as they, and no more to be feared than the insane illusions which it shields and tries to demonstrate must still be true.
It is your thoughts alone that cause you pain. Is that meant for me? Nothing external.
What's that?
Did you have a comment about that?
Oh, the pieces.
No, I think they're commenting on it just fine.
Is your thoughts alone that cause you pain? Nothing external to your mind can hurt or injure you in any way. There is no cause beyond yourself that can reach down and bring oppression. No one but yourself affects you. There is nothing in the world that has
Hang
the
on a
power.
minute.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. How many of us are in a frame of mind to accept the absolute truth of what she just read?
Absolutely.
Nothing outside you can affect you.
I would like to
Yes.
think that I was ready for that, but I must not think that because
Thank you, Kat. Thank you. Relatively few of us believe that. There are some who do or are afraid to believe it. But few of us are willing to accept that we are totally responsible we feel.
Absolutely.
That nothing more is required for us to awaken, to change our belief, and to change the way we see ourselves.
There's a place in the Course, and I can't quote where it is, but here's what it says. I am responsible for what I see. Remember that?
Yeah.
And it goes on.
I choose the feeling.
It talks about how we set it up, but we don't want to take credit for it when it's not good. But we still know we're responsible for what we see. So what are we seeing? What we want to see. That's that thing. Now,
Who's the we that set that up, Jim?
the we that set that up is me.
The me of
Which
we.
you? What's that you?
Oh, I see. It's the part of me that believes that we're not all one. That guy.
I think it boils down to me being in touch with my reality. I can't accept that statement and say that this person with this name sitting here represented by this body is responsible for everything. Because this is a character in a play. There's something behind this character that set it all up. And that, to me, is the self with a capital S that is taking this journey that Lesson 158 talks about, that has determined in advance when the mind is ready for the lifting of the veil. Now, we can change a lot of things and do a lot of things, and we can adjust the script, and the script can change, and I don't think it's in concrete, but it's the idea that if I'm going to accept responsibility for everything I do in this dream, I'm going to have to come from a place of that self with a capital S. And that's the split mind right there. The tiny fragment that the Course talks about is my only reality represented by the Holy Spirit until that is back to that self. And until I get that in my mind, I'm coming from an ego place where I view that self as projecting what it did not want in itself into what it calls me, or what I call me, outside of itself. And until I take responsibility for being that self with the capital S, I cannot change what goes on in my dream, because it isn't a dream, it's reality. When I go to that place, and I'm not sure how much I can do, except, as Tom has said a couple of times, what do you want? What do you want above all else? Because what I want is I want to go there, but I still want to be me in the dream.
You still want the holy ego to prevail.
The Course says somewhere that that's the most important question. What do I want to come of this?
What do I think I
Jesus says that.
am, to me,
Of course, it asks
is the
that.
most
Yeah.
important question. What am I? What is my reality? If my reality is nothing but love, why don't I express that all the time? Why don't I go to that place automatically instead of needing some sort of a tripwire or catalyst to remind me to go to the Holy Spirit? I've got to get in touch with my own reality. And at some point, I guess it is reassuring to me that it's going to happen. But I'm still at odds from a standpoint of an ego in a dream against myself with a capital S, and saying, is this necessary? I can actually, through my ego mind, say, yes, it was. But now I'm asking, but is it necessary now? After this part of this journey of the prodigal son, in leaving, and on the way back, there's no question all of us are on our way back. We've made that commitment or we wouldn't be in this room. So now it's just a matter of how it's playing out. So now if I run into a situation like Shannon's talking about or something like that, I go, is this necessary? Can I just go right to the lesson? Can I just have that come into my mind and we join in why that loving oneness is what I want? With just my little willingness, can we get to there from that? Can we put it together? So I'm in that place, in that borderland, and I recognize myself there. I see myself there. And that's been beneficial. Because at some point, I have to stop condemning that self with the capital S. And that's where this paragraph number 2, talking about what we do and how the Course says our greatest fear, our last obstacle to peace is the fear of God. That's it for me, is that fear of self with a capital S, or Christ, which is represented as God through most of this book. It's a transition, but most of this book talks about God and Christ almost equally.
There's a simple statement that I really value in the Course too, and it is love is the answer regardless of the question. It's so simple. And it covers everything.
It really
Yeah, the
does.
answer's in the question.
It really does. I have what Jim brought up. I have the paragraph right here, and I was going, I know I read that recently because we read it in the group, in a Port Townsend group this last time. It's the section in the text, page 448. It's a section called the responsibility for sight, which is everything we've been talking about.
Yeah.
And this paragraph is just wonderful. So it says, I am responsible for what I see. Emphasis on am. I choose the feelings I experience, and I decide upon the goal I would achieve. And everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for and receive as I have asked.
I have it just like that, and then I highlighted one word, everything.
No excuses.
And it's like I
But
love
that
it.
whole
Shirley,
section is just
Shirley McLean
so
summed that
powerful.
up when somebody asked her, like, why are we here? And she said, we came here to create our world. That's what that says. We create our world.
And that sort of reinforces the idea that the Course tells us that there's just one child of God. And
The sonship, we are all.
yeah, but when it says I am responsible, the I that is there is the child of God. I'm responsible for what I see.
I think the fear of
Yes.
God that you were talking about is maybe the same as the fear of not being me.
Yes.
You know, the fear of letting go of this role that I'm playing. Is that the same as the fear of God?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So,
Good put.
Does it also occur to you, Brian, that there's maybe a feeling of a tremendous responsibility if you accept that you are as God created you? That you are the Son of God?
I hadn't thought of that.
You haven't thought of that? I have. Because it struck me then, so then I have to be that all the time? That's what I have to present myself as? That's what I am in every situation? No exceptions?
But that's all, that's all totally an illusion too, right? That's just.
Well,
the
it's
next
all
step.
coming
It's
from an
all-
ego
well, none of
place.
That is.
Yeah.
It's all coming from an
Any of
ego
that.
place.
Yeah.
But our ego
Any of
places
that.
are the blocks to the awareness of love's presence.
I think if you give up your role as Tom, you'll naturally be that. It won't be any great responsibility. It will be who you are.
But from this place,
Yeah.
it seems like I can take a nap. And from that place, it says God never sleeps. So from this place, it's like, well, it also says it's constant joy when we get there.
Yeah.
Can I imagine that from here?
And of course, also says, and you do nothing.
Right?
And see, that's the place you reached when you were talking. I just felt that you went into beingness. There wasn't an other, there wasn't a this, you were in that being present state.
Where are we?
I think we're
Shannon, are we with you?
yeah, on 5 and 5. See, no one but yourself affects you. There is nothing in the world that has the power to make you ill or sad or weak or frail. But it is you who have the power to dominate all things you see by merely recognizing what you are. As you perceive the harmlessness in them, they will accept your holy will as theirs, and what was seen as fearful now becomes a source of innocence and holiness.
That was the most
Perfect.
amazing paragraph.
That was
I'm so happy for you. Read that
That's
paragraph.
no accident.
You want
I know.
to frame that and put it on your refrigerator.
Shall we keep reading?
I think-
Tom?
I'll screenshot it.
It's 361 in the workbook.
Page 361 in the workbook.
Thank you.
We're on 362 now.
362, yeah.
Yeah.
Depends on the book, 359, yeah.
My holy brother, think of this a while. The world you see does nothing. It has no
Hang on,
effects.
honey.
Okay.
Repeat that line.
The world you see does nothing.
The world you see does nothing.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
That's where we were always trying to begin our experience from that place. It's not about them. It's not out here. Sorry, honey, go ahead.
It has no effects at all. It merely represents your thoughts.
Yep.
And it will change entirely as you elect to change your mind and choose the joy of God as what you really want. Yourself is radiant in this holy joy, unchanged, unchanging, and unchangeable forever and forever. And would you deny a little corner of your mind its own inheritance and keep it as a hospital for pain, a sickly place where living things must come at last to die?
Your mind is a hospital for pain. Holy cow.
Well, you see it. I see it every Sunday when I work at the hospital.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You see it every time you look through the ego's eyes instead of through the God self.
It was interesting Sunday when I went, I always speak to the Holy Spirit before on the elevator going up. And there wasn't one patient I could see this Sunday. And I thought to myself, as I was going down the elevator 15 minutes afterwards, I'm kind of judging it, and then I said, no, that's the way it was, that's just the way it is, and there was no judgment in it. That's how it was today. The week before, I didn't really see the patients on the floor, only a couple, but I saw a lady in the bathroom. And it was incredible, the conversation that I had. So I never know how I'm going to be led. It was interesting, real fast.
Yeah, God's in the bathroom too.
Huh? Yeah, God uses the bathroom too. Right.
For a different reason.
Well, I walked into the bathroom and there were two ladies with walkers. They were in the stalls. I had to wait, and then they came out. And one of them, as I went in, one of them said, "What is your goal?" And the other one said, "I want to dance again." And so I came out of the bathroom, and I said, "Well, I'm 81 years old and I'm still tap dancing twice a week." And that started the whole conversation. And I said something to her about, you can heal yourself. And she said, "Well, what do you mean? I've never heard that." I said, "Just change your thoughts." And she looked at me, and we said a few more things, and then we kind of hugged each other, and I went my way upstairs, and she went her way. But it was I was supposed to be there at that time, and I knew that.
That's lovely, yeah.
So there's going to be more opportunities, but
Nicole?
That's exactly what he said about the car. You're late
You want me
for
to
some
read?
reason, something else is supposed to happen.
The world may seem to cause you pain. The world may seem to cause you pain. And yet the world as causeless has no power to cause. As an effect, it cannot make effects. As an illusion, it is what you wish. Will.
Wow.
Your idle wishes represent its pains. Your strange desires bring it evil dreams. Your thoughts of death envelop it in fear, while in your kind forgiveness does it live.
Believe that, dear friends.
Where-
We're all free.
Right here,
yeah,
362.
yeah, right here.
Pain is the thought of evil taking form and working havoc on your holy mind. Pain is the ransom you have gladly paid not to be free. In pain is God denied the Son he loves. In pain does fear appear to triumph over love, and time replace eternity in heaven. And the world becomes a cruel and a bitter place where sorrow rules and little joys give way before the onslaught of the savage pain that waits to end all joy and misery.
Teddy?
Lay down your arms and come without defense into the quiet place where heaven's peace holds all things still at last. Lay down all thoughts of danger and of fear. Let no attack enter with you. Lay down the cruel sword of judgment that you hold against your throat, and put aside the withering assaults with which you seek to hide your holiness.
Yeah, let's finish this out, Millie.
Oh, I have another sentence there on that paragraph. Here you will understand there is no pain. Here does the joy of God belong to you. This is the day when it is given you to realize the lesson which contains all of salvation's power. It is this: pain is illusion, joy, reality.
Wow.
Pain is but sleep, joy is awakening. Blah. Pain is deception, and joy alone is truth. Amen.
Shall I finish? And so again, we make the only choice that ever can be made. We choose between illusions and the truth, or pain and joy, or hell and heaven. Let our gratitude unto our teacher fill our hearts, as we are free to choose our joy instead of pain, our holiness in place of sin, the peace of God instead of conflict, and the light of heaven for the darkness of the world.
Well,
Oh, man.
Let's remember now this week,
good.
what hides behind our judgments. And so let's remind ourselves each judgment we make, what we are covering up, what possibilities we're denying ourselves, simply because we're making those judgments.